is going. So, gamers, emphasis on the, we are back on a Wuthering Waves video. We're literally playing Wuthering Waves, TTV E_thin, kick E_thin. We are talking about Shorekeeper. This is a video from Thundah, how Generalist Healers are being replaced in Wuthering Waves 2.4. I spoke about this a little bit briefly the other day. I think Verina, and I think they're trying to phase out Shorekeeper, just straight up. I think they're trying to phase out Shorekeeper. I think they're trying to phase out Verina. I don't think they will ever technically be completely phased out because they both give way too much value. You know, Shorekeeper gives the 12% crit rate and then the 24% crit damage, and Verina has nearly like one of the fastest Concerto energy regens and massive attack buffs. So I don't think they'll ever phase them out completely. With that being said, I do think they're trying to make them less important. Also, I snooze the ad. So let's get into it. See what he says.
That launched within the version 2.4 updates, being Cartethyia and Lupa, have one very big thing in common. Being that they're not exactly a big fan of using the Shorekeeper within their teams.
The Shorekeeper.
The Shorekeeper has dominated the meta ever since her release in version 1.3. But the more time passes, the more I feel that Kuro Games is trying to minimize her.
Okay.
So let's talk about the potential downfall of the Generalist Healers.
The Shorekeeper.
Now obviously, I don't think the power of the Generalist Healers needs to be stated. Everyone knows why characters like Verina and Shorekeeper are as valued as they are in the game. And honestly, I don't really feel like I need to spend the time to explain why they're so good.
They're good.
From short field times to incredibly powerful buffs that can be utilized by every team in the game, Shorekeeper and Verina truly are some of the...
I just don't get hit. I don't need a healer. Well, the thing is, I don't even think that they're... okay, Shorekeeper's healing is like whatever, right? Also, you always go winter... masturbate on stream to the girls at Wuthering Waves. Why'd I do that? I just masturbate to myself. What the fuck? I'm hotter than them. Anyways, I don't think it's really more of the healing aspect that is really, it's more of the buffing that is really valued by the people, at least in my eyes, right? I mean, Verina's healing is pretty good. Shorekeeper's kind of like whatever, right? But, I mean, if you think about it, Rover heals, Party, Shiakona, Zany, Keeb, and you can run Spectra Rover. Spectra Rover heals, but Shorekeeper's still pretty good there. If you had, I think it's S3 or S4 Verina, whatever it is that gives the other buff. Changli, Brant, Lupa, Brant healing, shielding. Like they're definitely getting phased a little bit. Cantarella with the new Filova, whatever that new best in slot team's going to be. Cantarella's going to be the healer and coordinated attacker. So it's up there, man. It's definitely. They're definitely trying to phase it out. Like they're trying to make alternatives. And I don't think it's bad having alternatives. I don't think it's bad having alternatives. Like, you know, for a while, if you didn't have Shorekeeper, it was pretty rough. It was rough because Baiji's not that great and just Verina. So you only had one true, genuine healer, but now they're giving more options. So I'm not necessarily mad about it. I think they're still going to have value throughout the game. I can't find a day where Shorekeeper will completely be valueless. She will always have value with the crit rate, crit damage that she provides. And Verina maybe like the attack, maybe like if characters don't scale on attack, like let's say Cardi. But even then, I run Cardi, Verina, Sanhua, and I still fucking kill shit. So it's a positive and negative depending on how you look at it. It is.
Pillars of WuWa's meta community.
Very niche is fine, yeah.
This has caused some issues, however. Not only is team building extremely limited, considering the low amount of healers that we do have, but it's also incredibly easy to simply power creep new healers, because what they offer to the team is incredibly simplistic. All you need to do is give a character the exact same outro skill buff, a slightly better built-in buff, and then the same amount of field time. Because that's the only thing Generalist Healers are known for. Their buffing and their low amount of field time. Simply having better heals would not just make you a better character.
Exactly.
Because healing is not the reason we use this Generalist characters.
Very true.
It's always been about the buffs and the field time. So ultimately, the Generalist Healer role is one that is simply way too, well, simple for the game. They've always been a constant in team building. So now Kuro is simply trying to minimize the impact of these characters. And how are they doing it?
Both.
Simple. By giving unique utilities. There's 3 characters I can think of that replace characters like Shorekeeper and Verina within various teams that have unique utilities of their own that actually make them worth using. These characters being Spectral Rover within the Spectrofrazzle
Yep.
teams, Aero Rover within the Aero Erosion team,
Yep.
and then Lupa within the Mono Fusion teams. So let's talk about them a bit,
Okay.
starting with Spectral Rover. Spectral Rover is obviously the most scuffed one on the list. I think everyone agrees with that. Because Spectral Rover's optimal usage
Yeah.
is not one that Kuro ever intended to exist.
Absolutely.
Sure, they gave Spectrofrazzle application in 2.0, but they still didn't expect us to start.
I think the reason why he said Lupa and not Brant is because Lupa's providing attack buffs for all fusion units. And so, technically speaking, well, let me snooze that real quick. Thank you, Apto. Lupa's providing the attack buff while Verina does the same thing. So, what he's trying to say is that why would you use Verina on a team with Brant and Chang Li when you can run Lupa? And so I understand his perspective on that. I think you could include both Brant and Lupa in that bracket. That's where it gets a little bit tricky, where it's like, okay, like Brant is healing and shielding, and Lupa's attack buffing. Verina does both of them, but now you can get two characters for fusion to do. So it's a weird situation. That's why he said that character. Hope this
using
helps.
Spectral Rover
Hope
as a
this
healer,
helps.
which is on them.
Yeah.
The only reason that Spectral Rover as a healer actually works is because their fourth sequence allows them to heal after
True.
using their Resonance Liberation, making them able to trigger the effect for Rejuvenating Glow without needing to run one of the Originite weapons. The healing on this sequence, however, is quite
not that
low,
great, yeah.
meaning that using Spectral Rover as a healer is something you can only really do if you're confident about your dodging capabilities.
Yeah, if you're just that guy
If
like
you're not
me,
good at dodging,
obviously.
it's best to just run
We've
Spectral
stupid.
Rover on an Eternal Radiance build and still use someone like Verina or Shorekeeper within your team. But this is not the optimal thing to do. If you're running a healer Spectral Rover, the utility that they bring into the team is obviously that of Spectrofrazzle application, as well as reducing the spectral resistance of the enemy. The ability to apply Spectrofrazzle is incredibly relevant for both DPS Phoebe as well as Zani.
Yeah.
For Zani, Spectral Rover is basically your only option if you do not have Phoebe, because Spectrofrazzle application is directly converted into Forte for Zani to spend with her heavy attacks. So ultimately, Spectrofrazzle application is required in order for Zani to do her damage.
Absolutely.
As for Phoebe, the same thing applies. You need Spectrofrazzle to be on the enemy in order to get the 256% damage
Such a crackhead
amplification that
team.
Phoebe has within her kit. For Phoebe, the amount is less relevant than for Zani, but you still need the Frazzle application itself in order to deal good damage on your Phoebe. However, then again, the Frazzle application does once again become relevant for Phoebe, considering the fact that the Eternal Radiance set has an additional buff when the Spectrofrazzle count on enemies reaches 10, which just so happens to be the exact amount of stacks applied by Spectral Rover. So aside from the fact that Spectral Rover's healing is a complete joke, I would say that Spectral Rover is a pretty efficient Shorekeeper or Verina replacement, and is in my opinion
Okay.
well designed.
Yeah.
Then we go to Aero Rover, however.
Dude.
The Aero Rover, however, is not as intelligent.
I fucking hate Arrow Rover with a passion. I think Arrow Rover is one of my least favorite characters I've ever played. I think Arrow Rover is one of my least favorite characters I've ever fucking played in a gacha game. Bro, his fucking E can miss. Like you have to be in the air, you have to do the E and ba 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 ba. And it's just like, it's so annoying. It's so fucking annoying, brother. But isn't he strong? I mean, maybe at S6 one day, but like the fact that Cap would use Arrow Rover as a main DPS with San was fucking insane. Arrow Rover's kind of clunky. He's clunky as fuck. So I'm still think it's dumb that Phoebe can apply Spectral Raver, but not can apply Frazzle, but not for herself. Yeah, it's silly, bro. This team on B-roll looks fun. It's not a bad team. It's not a bad team at all. I wouldn't mind Arrow Rover, except he randomly gets too high. That's what I'm saying, man. You could miss some of the little ads and shit. It's like, dude, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what? Who designed this shit? Did Dawe make this? Like, what the fuck is happening? So yeah, I don't know. I this motherfucker's annoying.
Intelligently designed,
He's
in my
annoying as
opinion.
fuck.
Arrow Rover does not have the ability to apply Arrow Erosion.
Which
This
is a
job
no.
instead going to Shikona.
Rover,
The only
get
way
my
to
ass.
actually apply Arrow Erosion using the
my
Arrow
ass.
Rover is by simply converting a different DOT into Erosion.
I also really hate that about his kit. I really dislike that so much. I think that obviously with Cardi, you could still apply your own Arrow Erosion, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. And Arrow Rover's outro can get it to 6, which would be the max. but the whole conversion from other elements to one to another, it kind of seems like maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but this is kind of like a so far in advance, like when we get fusion or electro or glacio shape, like there's just no practical application for this at the moment. And that's one of the other reasons why I just don't like him. Because why the fuck is that there? Because it's not good currently. And how long are we going to have to wait until there's another person doing that? You know, so technically speaking, you know, it does open up the door for, let's say I'm making up something. Let's just say randomly Encore could apply fusion stacks, right? And so you can run Cardi, Arrow Rover, and Encore because you can apply the stacks with Encore, transfer it Arrow Rover, and then get the max buffs for Cardi. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but there's like no practical use currently. And it just makes me like, dude, what the fuck? Like, this is fucking ass. Like, I don't like this. I don't fucking like this shit, you know?
However, in most teams where using Arrow Rover, this is not even a thing that you are capable of doing.
Yeah.
Sure, Shakona can apply Spectrofrazzle, and then you can convert that using Arrow Rover.
Why would you do that? You can just
but
fucking
why not just have
apply
Shakona
Erosion.
apply Arrow Erosion
Absolutely.
itself instead?
Absolutely.
That's just infinitely more efficient. Where Arrow Rover's additional utility comes in is the form of buffing.
Yep.
Buffing is something that is already done by characters like Shorekeeper or
Bobby.
Verina. But the thing that makes Arrow Rover special is that
Were they
Arrow
cooking?
Rover
I don't know,
specifically
bro.
buffs air erosion
no
by
fucking
increasing
clue.
its cap count.
I have no
This
clue.
is something that not a single other character is able to do, aside from an S2 Cartethyia. They
Cardi-
also give arrow damage amplification thanks to their signature weapon. However, I really don't want to focus on that, that's just a boring stat buff. The increased cap for air erosion is what's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's in my opinion a very good way in order to buff the air erosion team. Because with the increase in stacks
S2 Cardi
that
need the
air
Arrow team?
erosion can get, the damage output from
Yeah, but S2 Cardi is like fucking $600, you know? Like if you have an S2 Cardi, you have exited the realm of real like normal meta stuff. You've exited the realm of like just being a normal player, you know what I mean? If you're a broke boy, just say so. Yeah. So of S2 Cardi, she's still better with her arrow team, yeah, or saved a lot, you know? Yeah, but again, having an S2 Cartethyia, like that's like saying like when you have an S2 Cartethyia, the gameplay is different. And so since the gameplay is different, it does not I get W hat you're saying? I get I get what you're saying. Yeah, okay, you understand. Yeah, I don't gotta break it down. You know what it is. When you reach a level of sequence nodes, the gameplay fucking changes. It's not the standard. There's nothing wrong if you want to fucking spend money or save or whatever, but yeah. W hat, by the way. Yes, sir, W hat. Would allowing echoes to apply effects indirectly buff characters too much? No, I don't think so. I think if echoes apply maybe 1 to 2 stacks per, like I feel like that's fine. A cooldown of 18 seconds, 20 seconds, right? Cartethia's swords last 20 seconds. So if you have an echo that applies arrow erosion, I think one does, right? Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't even fucking know what the echo does. 1 stack or 2 stacks every 20 seconds. Like, yeah, not a big deal. Was failing at SS Mono Fire team today. Yeah, well, you know, he's an old man. He's an old man. It is what it is. He wears glasses.
Air erosion itself can actually become pretty major within a team. So in concept, this was a good idea. Pair the increase in stack count for air erosion with Shakona's ability to buff air erosion damage directly through damage amplification,
Yeah, you can clear
and you
without,
get yourself
too.
a pretty good amount of damage output that might even be worth running the two together. So within Arrow Rover's own kit, I don't find many issues aside from them just being inconsistent to use.
Well, he also sucks to play,
Where my
but yeah.
issues come in is with the way Cartethyia was designed, because
Really?
she gets specific buffs based on how many stacks of air erosion there are on the enemy. Now this itself would be completely fine, if the buffs didn't go up to 6 stacks. The buffs should have capped out at 3 stacks in my opinion. During the 1.0 era, characters felt extremely self-sufficient. However, in recent times, characters feel like they rely more and more on teammates, and Cartethyia being unable to fully utilize her kit, unless she uses one specific character, is in my opinion an incredibly boring way of making us use the Arrow Rover.
I get what he's saying. I understand it. But to me, I don't mind it because he's completely free. Arrow Rover's completely free. We'll get S6 for free, and we're gonna get his R5 weapon for free. So I kind of don't care. You know what I mean? Also, you can run Cartethyia with the 3 stacks, like again, Sanhua, Verina, and she still works fine. So I get his perspective, and there is some validity to it. But the thing with Wuthering Waves, it's a bit different than the other gacha games is, and I learned this with the Brant situation when I got canceled over Brant. You don't need access. And now, again, you could say that you don't like it, and I get this, but you don't need access to every single facet of the character's kit to make them work, right? Brant works fine on Molten Rift, and his ER is not hitting certain numbers to get the all buffs and all healing. Like, Cardi can get 3 stacks with herself, and let's say if you want to use Shikona or just Verina Sanhua, and still be okay. So I understand the perspective, but to me, if you're going to make it tied to a character to have the maximum potential achievable, I think this is a lot better design than Zany. The reason why it's a lot better design than Zany is because with Spectre Rover, it's a lot harder to get the maximum bar with Zany, while Cardi gets that character for free completely, and they can just get the 6 stacks. You need to be a little bit of a quick swap demon with your Cardi and your Big Mommy form, but I'm not stressing that. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's genuine critique there that I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with, but as long as it's fucking free, I don't care. Like, whatever, bro. Yeah, you have to use this character, quote unquote, have to, but they're free. All right, I don't mind. That's whatever. That's cool. And I could do it without that character as well. Zany's more sexy. I mean, I'm sexier than both of them, though, so it is what it is. I think Zany's the bad design in WuWa. I don't even think Zany's necessarily a bad design. I just think that they could have done a little bit better with her. But I don't think it's bad.
Now, I'm by
design,
no means saying that Cartethyia needs Arrow Rover. That would be simply wrong of me to say.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up wrong. She can literally solo towers. So it's not a thing where Cartethyia doesn't do enough damage without Arrow Rover. It just feels like an incredibly cheap and boring way of making a character the best in slot option when you could have handled it in a way better manner. And then we finally get to Lupa. I've been very vocal in past videos about how I believe that Lupa is an incredibly well-designed unit, and accomplishes her role perfectly. Not only is she the best 3rd slot character when it comes to the Mono Fusion team, she's also plenty powerful in other Mono Fusion based compositions. Whereas Spectre Rover's viability as a healer was purely accidental, and where Arrow Rover's feels incredibly forced, Lupa is in my opinion the perfect blend between being intended to be the best in slot in a certain team, but also not being best in slot in a boring way. You could say that Lupa and Arrow Rover with Cartethyia are not that far apart. Cartethyia gets specific buffs within her kit that she can only access if she has Arrow Rover in her team. Whereas Lupa has specific buffs in her kit that can only be fully utilized if you're in a Mono Fusion team. But you see the difference there? Cartethyia relies on one specific character for her buffs, whereas Lupa just requires an element that has plenty of good characters in it, like Mortefi, Brant, Chongli, and Encore.
Playing without Brant is not fun. It's not fun. It's not. It's Mortefi the GOAT. It's yeah, I don't know about that. Like, yes, look, fundamentally, Lupa can increase the DPS output and buff these other characters. But realistically speaking, if you're not running Brant, you're really not having a fun time. You're not having a good time. And if you don't have the Brant Cheng-Li comp, it's rough. Try running Lupa with Cheng-Li. You'd rather fucking put your dick in a blender, right? Running Lupa, Encore, Mortefi, put your dick in a blender, right? It's just, I'm having a good time, yeah, because you're not a normal person, Aussie. Like, you're not a normal player, right? You're a fucking psychopath. I beloved Chixia Encore Lupa team, sure, and that's awesome. I love that you like that. But Cheng-Li Lupa is fine. It's okay. Like, it's not bad, but it's not like fucking the best thing ever. Like, I think there's a very big difference in performance as well as ease of use if you're running Lupa Cheng-Li. Excuse me, if you're running Lupa Brant. You don't even need anyone else. You run Lupa Brant, fucking massive performance difference. If you're running other units, it starts to feel a little shitty. So Changli, Lupa, Shorekeeper, yeah, that could work. Playing getting Brant for an Encore Lupa Brant team. I mean, Encore Lupa Brant. I don't know about running Encore there. Maybe you run someone else. But yeah, I think this character really excels with Brant. And without a Brant, I'm not saying it's not usable. It absolutely is usable. I've seen people fucking clear with Lupa as a main DPS middle tower. But I don't think Lupa is like this, behold, heaven, fucking the greatest thing ever. I just don't. You always got 6. No, so no pull Lupa without Brand. I personally wouldn't. Obviously, if you want to make it work, you can make it work. You can make her and Changli work. I just don't think it's worth it, personally. Encore's nice. Fucking Encore's not easy to use. I don't believe this myth that Encore's easy to use and that she has this crazy damage output. I think it's just fucking cat. I'd say if the next shiny toy, exactly.
Lupa replacing Shorekeeper also feels way more natural than Arrow Rover and Spectral Rover.
That's
Spectral
true.
Rover's healing is so insanely mediocre that ultimately you're not getting a healer on your team, which means you have to be good at dodging. That's how bad the healing is. You're not going to be able to trust that to keep you alive. Arrow Rover does all the things that Shorekeeper does, being able to buff as well as heal. However, their rotation is among the more clunky in the game.
When does 2.1 come out, by the way?
Enough and enough about how forced this
is. ZZZ this week, guys? Is ZZZ this week? But just continue. Ethan's just gay? Absolutely.
Synergy between Arrow Rover and Cartethyia feels.
Absolutely.
But for Lupa and her best in slot team, it makes
Tomorrow?
sense.
Oh, fuck.
She may not be capable of healing, but she does have the free dodges that Shorekeeper provides. And healing and shielding is covered by
Ethan may be good at dodging, but he's also good at catching strays. Fuck you, bitch.
In her best in slot
Fuck
team
you,
already.
Bitch.
Lupa's buffs are also incredibly non-specific. All of her buffs are able to work on every single fusion character, except maybe the basic attack damage buffing. And even if you're not in a mono fusion team, you are still capable of utilizing Lupa's buffs, just to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
You still get the full extent of the attack buff, the full extent of her signature weapon, her signature set, etc. So unlike the Arrow Rover, Lupa doesn't need a specific synergy with one specific mechanic within her kit.
For sure.
She's good with every single fusion character, which is why she is, in my opinion, way better designed. But that's just my opinion. What do you think of the quote-unquote Shorekeeper replacements? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Additionally, if you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description below.
I think it was a great video. Everyone go follow. Everyone go watch homie. I think he kind of sold me a little bit on Lupa. You know, I do like the fact that he's right. I think you can fucking make Lupa work with a lot of other fusion units, but also doesn't really feel that great. You know, it really does not feel that great as opposed to using it without Brand. But with that being said, everyone go follow homie. And also, by the way, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. Love you. Mwah. See you in the next one.